that time of week once more for Muji and Dan to give you the comic store. It's time to open up those bags and boards, fans. Welcome to Get Your Pulls.
Yo, welcome to Get Your Pulls number 90, the 420 edition.
Hey,
/ Easter pod.
420 Easter.
Yes. / Zombie Day, if you don't believe in Jesus or don't hurt that. So, yeah, it's a lot of holidays all in one.
Strange magic in the air here at Get Your Pulls.
Yeah, I saw some sweet. I'm not really a big fan of gifts because after they were a thing for like a month, it was like everybody was making them. It's died back down now to where you can see I can get a laugh from a select one every once in a while, because for a while on Facebook and Twitter it was like, great, you went to Photoshop and wrote a fucking song lyric on this, like, fucking you're not talented. But anyways, I saw some pretty good ones for today. I saw one where somebody done one that was like, you can't get higher than this, and it was a picture of Jesus coming from the grave. So that's pretty good. That was pretty good. But yeah, big edition. Did you have a good Easter?
I did. It was nice and relaxing. It's been a hell of a last couple of weeks. Emotional roller coaster and a lot of things, but just been working my ass off with Empire Wrestling since about December, running every week, and then this last week was the culmination of everything we've been doing since that time.
Being back on the grind.
Yeah.
Even if it's in town, you forget about that weekly obligation.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's been great, but it certainly limited my, full immersion into the comic world, but certainly had enough time for it. I did read all my pulls and enjoyed them quite a bit, and we'll get to more of that later. I will say, I just want to give a shout out to our good friend Andrew Alexander, who the culmination of all of that, unfortunately, was defeat. But my client, the Southeastern Strangler, Andrew Alexander, lost to the Temptation Sean Tempers in the Empire Arena. It was a championship versus career match, and as a result, Andrew had to retire. He was a hell of a wrestler and a hell of an underrated talent, and just want to give him a little shout out here on the show. I know he's a big comic book fan and he's listening, so.
Yeah, if there's one guy that I believe is retired, then I believe him. I believe if there's one person I believe is content with being retired and doesn't plan as of now to ever wrestle again, it's him.
Yes.
Like I said, I'm not saying, people get the itch. He's a young man. He's fucking 30. He's a young guy, so he get the itch or whatever. But he seems like the type of guy, if he gets the itch to come back, like he'll have to ask that people, like, is it okay if I come back? Because, like I did that thing, So I believe he fully intends on never wrestling again, where 99% of the time, even with my friends, which a couple of my close friends have told me that they're retiring, I'm just like, no, you're not.
Yeah, I fucking know better. And it's funny because, when you're in professional wrestling, you have a love-and-hate relationship with it. It's certainly an up and down thing. Like, sometimes you're just disgusted with it, other times you can't stop thinking about it.
Well, yeah, the product on TV especially.
Well, that sort of dictates everything else for a lot of people, but, all the way down to the indies and what we do, it's an ever-changing dynamic. But I think it's really starting to change for the better, and I'm kind of excited about that and excited about the future there.
Yeah, it seems to be on an upward turn. I mean, the network has caused much of excitement. We'll see how long that lasts, because everybody's pumped because the network's there. We'll see if it dies down at all with, it not being a new thing anymore. But their product on TV, at least for the WWE, not for TNA, a couple of our good buddies are there. It's fucking probably worse than ever outside of the talent of a couple of our buddies and a couple other guys. But, yeah, WWE is, better than it's been in 6 or 7 years, so. They got all the talent, so yeah, hopefully there's about to be a good run, and there's about to be a nice, hopefully 4 or 5 years at least of wrestling where you could be happy to watch wrestling on TV for a while again.
Absolutely. Well, we won't bore you with our shop talk any longer, but I just had to get that shout out.
Even though we think it's likely, if you like comics, you probably like wrestling.
There's a huge crossover, more so than I ever thought.
I thought about it. At first I thought that a little bit, just because, there are maybe just because of where we live, you associate a lot of wrestling fans we're like rednecks and stuff. Even though when you think back, it's like, well, we were the wrestling fans, and we're not really like rednecks. I mean, kind of, just because we live in the South, but we're not like what you would prototypically be like. Oh, those are the things the rednecks like. But then you thought about it, I mean, wrestling is like, you know, wrestlers are the closest thing to like real superheroes, you know, that there are, like outside of like, you know, I mean, in the same sense that like some athletes are, but I mean, a lot of wrestlers are just legit playing comic book characters for the most part.
Well,
So
it's all
like
storytelling.
Hulk Hogan was a comic book character. He's just a real guy, and a lot of guys are like that. Not everybody, but a lot. So it makes sense that people would like both, or you know, that you would have like a pretty big crossover. I think in those things. But yeah, that's wrestling. Wrestling's cool. Again, from now, if it's in 6 months, it's not cool. I'll fucking tell you, because I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, you said that Raw sucked, you turned on wrestling again. It's like, no, pay for cable. So if it's good, I'll watch. If it sucks, you don't watch. It's just like buying you buy fruit from a place all the time, they start making shitty fruit, you stop buying it. You didn't turn on fruit, you still love fruit. You just don't like it when it's making you sick. That's how wrestling is sometimes. But we'll get to comics. We could end up going on a 3-hour wrestling rant. Let's keep you away from that for now.
But it might happen one day.
Yeah, I mean, if wrestling gets too much on the uptake, then we know that Josh Miller.
Miller's already. He's already been asking me about doing a fucking wrestling podcast. So, and I'm like, dude, I don't have time to do another podcast.
A, you don't have time, and B, like if you're too directly involved, like it feels weird. Like I've always thought, if we actually get like any comics out there, like write them. If we actually get anything, like if we ever got to the point of like publishing comics, then we would have to like stop doing the format of show that we do, because you can't really review your peers. Like it's not really the cool thing to do.
And that's like at some level, it's an extreme level of grandstanding, because you've got like.
And if you're doing wrestling, even if you're doing it like on the smaller like independent level, like it still feels like a little icky to like be like reviewing Raw if you liked it or not. If you're going out there, even if it's in front of a couple 100 people, it still feels like, and not this thing, because I'm never this, because I mean I don't think. I'm totally different than I don't think the fucking, now that like most of the things are out about like WWE, about how like they really do business, like I don't think ever if you shit on wrestling on a podcast that they wouldn't fucking 3 years from then hire you. Like I don't think they would hire you and go back and be like, oh, we found out that you thought Raw was bad and fired you. Like it's not that. Like I don't think people should just not be afraid if they're trying to like make it really, because I just don't think they care that much, because they fucking hired every motherfucker ever that shit on them. But I think it's just like a respect of like your peers.
It is. I think it is. It's a giant thing to respect your peers, and also it's like it comes off as sour grapes, even if you don't intend it. Even if you're one of those few that is able to completely separate the side of yourself that is a fan from the side of yourself that is a performer, and you can just completely look at it objectively as a fan, and not like, what would I do if I was in that spot? And if that ever crosses your mind, then you're not objectively reviewing it.
Yeah, like I would even feel weird, like even though I'm not doing anything in wrestling right now, like I would feel weird talking about, I mean, because I didn't fucking watch wrestling for like 5 years, so I thought the booking was shitty, but I would still feel like a little weird talking about how, you know, shitty some of the angles were or something like that, because especially when it's people we know now that like work for all the big wrestling companies, like, you know, it's like what... You know, there's like a big conflict of interest in anything like that.
Yeah, and whether you mean to or not, it comes off as sour grapes.
Yeah,
it comes off as like, I'm a guy who's, well, I'm not good enough to work there, so I can shit all over them. And
even what you're saying is 100% true, it still doesn't seem right. So yeah, we probably won't be doing a wrestling pod, not at least about that. You know, you've got the Midnight Black Mass where we talk to wrestlers and talk about some stuff in the business, but we won't be doing any sort of thing like this. We won't be reviewing Raw or pay-per-views or anything like that.
That's that now. I mean, Miller's talked about that. If it's something he wants to fucking undertake, he can. But, you know, as far as the Midnight Black Mass, it'll keep going, and there'll be plenty of wrestling on that. So, anyway.
Yeah. On to some comic news. A little bit of news at Wondercon this week. I guess a couple of announcements, like not a lot. I see these, it's weird, because, I mean, you know, you go to Dragon Con, but most of these cons are like that. I mean, there's really like 4 or 5 cons, I guess, or less, that DC and Marvel have like a true presence at, where like they're there. Now there's a lot of people there from the company representing the company, and like this year it seems like DC, you know, their big representation was just on the Batman 75 panel. They actually did that. But then a lot of these cons will just book different people individually from Marvel and DC and be like, okay, well, this is like the handful of guys we have that works for Marvel, so we're going to throw them up there to do a Marvel panel. Like, it's obvious that it's not Marvel didn't send these guys to talk about things. It's just, these are the things we'll talk about. And that's how most of WonderCon felt for me for news. It's like you had like a mishmash of artists that were just like, they just all happened to work for DC. One of them's a letterer, one of them's this, and now they're talking about the new 52, and it's so you don't get like a lot of new info out of those things.
There's really only a couple of cons that offer that. Comic-Con really being the major one, and then like Heroes Con and New York City Comic Con. There's starting to be others.
New York Comic Con is really probably is one of the biggest for comic news, and who knows if it'll even be with DC moving west. Like, I bet they don't even have that presence there anymore because that was right next door.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, Image does their own con just about it, so that makes sense. And then...
So, here's my take on it, though. Here's my take. See, I was at a hotel bar at a Dragon Con one year, and I believe he was a Jedi Master. He may have been a Padawan. I'd had a few drinks. Came up to me, and we were just bullshitting, as you do when you meet these strange and awesome people at Dragon Con who love all the same dumb, nerdy shit you do, and... they like to get fucked up. So,
yeah.
Essentially what that guy said was, Comic-Con is where industry professionals go to network. Dragon Con is where they come to get hammered. And right. I think that's probably about the same with WonderCon.
Yeah, and I heard it's pretty big. I heard that's one of the things is like, I heard like just from people that were there, they said they wouldn't be surprised if Marvel or DC had more of a presence to cash in and make a little money there because apparently... WonderCon has gotten ginormous. It's another one of the many cons like Dragon Con and these other things that all of a sudden you're just like, dude, Jesus, like all of a sudden there's 30,000 people here. Like, it wasn't like this. So yeah, but there's a little bit of news that came out, a few things. DC officially announced that they're having their third weekly book. I can't remember. I think it's the one for Earth 2 that got officially announced. But they also announced how they're going to go too, because this really hadn't been clear before. Because I think everyone assumed because of the way they'd done before with like 52 and with I think Trinity was another one of the books that it would be like 52 issues of it. They would do a full year, but they're not gonna. Batman's gonna be the closest. All the books are ending in March at the same time, which you would believe probably means that something big is gonna happen. Well, they're all gonna end right there, but all three books will end in March. So we've already got, of course, Batman Eternal going, and then I believe Futures End, the Earth 2 book, one of them starts very soon, one of them starts till September, but they all end in March, so they're not all going to be 52 issues, so, and then they said the plan was Batman Eternal will probably take some time off, and it's likely it may come back another year, depending on what's going on, so that's cool. So that was a little bit of clarification on how those things were going to go.
DC and Marvel in the war of who can get the most of your money per month. You thought Marvel was sticking it to you?
Yeah.
And they were, with bi-monthly books, and then jacking up the prices, and then now DC says, no, fuck that, we're going to give you 3 weekly titles.
Yeah, I mean, if you were hardcore like a person, which, I mean, if I had more money, I'd probably be, just because when I collect things, I am a big completionist. Like, I'll buy some shitty figures. I'm one of the dopes that gets fucked into spending an extra $30 because, you got 7 of the figures. Might as well have the 3 shitty ones.
Why fucking enjoy anything if you can't obsess over
exactly.
it?
But yeah, with comics, if you were a person that was like, wanting to get everything important, like, I mean, because Earth 2 is a good book, everybody says. Everybody loves Earth 2. And then Futures Ends, their next big event. So if you wanted to know, if you're already reading Earth 2 and you're like, well, I got to get this other Earth 2 book, and then you want to like be in on like the big event in DC, you're like, well, I got to get Futures In, and obviously, you're going to get Batman Eternal, then it would be very easy to all of a sudden look up and be like, wait a minute, that's 12 motherfucking books. At least they're $3 a piece. At least they're not gouging you on that, but it is pretty crazy. But I mean, it's probably going to work. I mean, you think about, I don't know about how the other 2 books will, but I heard the first 2 Eternals are both like selling about the same as like regular Batman. So if it ends up even dropping off a little bit, then you've got, that replaces 4 of their shitty books. So I'm going to guess that business-wise, that in a couple months we're going to see that like this probably really works for DC. I mean, because especially with Batman, Nightwing's coming back and everything, but with Batman, you've essentially canceled 4 of your lowest selling titles and put 4 Batman books in its place. So I think it could work out pretty well. Speaking of Batman, old Robin coming back, maybe a little bit sooner than expected. But I mean, I guess he died in like Batman or Robin number 19, I think it was.
And we'll say
it. A year.
We'll say it. Looks like our prediction was wrong. Our Getchyapulls,
we had the great, we had the,
Sherlock Holmesing the fuck out of it, which we Sherlock Holmes the fuck out of one thing that came to pass.
we've had a few. We're right a lot more than we're wrong, but it does look like it's going to be Damien that's going to be Robin again. It seems like it, because, I mean, we thought for sure that it was going to be Harper Row, but, I mean, now we basically know she's going to be Bluebird, you know, just from the preview of Batman Eternal.
We thought it was going to be Dick Grayson, if you recall.
Yeah, we thought Dick Grayson was going to be, but also, too, man, and maybe we were right, and maybe they changed their mind, because, you know, we found out last week, I don't think we talked about, but we found out that Nightwing number 30, which is supposed to be the last issue, which James Tynion had written, has now just been completely erased, and the new Grayson creative team of Tim Seeley and another dude that's a crime writer, but they're now totally rewriting Nightwing number 30. So it seems to me that that's like a newer idea. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if we were right and they just changed their mind with them changing up the team there. But yeah, it looks like it's not going to be Dick Grayson going back as Robin. He's going to be the fucking Bird Soldier, or whatever the fuck he's going to be. The Gotham Soldier is what it's looking like with that Grayson book. So yeah, so we missed one. Sorry.
But could be cool. I mean, I'm looking forward to that.
I told everybody to buy Satellite Sam. I was wrong on that. but I also bought 3 Saga number 1s. Goddammit. So I'm also right a lot.
But, you know, we're getting our wish. Tim Seeley on a DC regular.
Yeah, we've been talking about that forever. And, not to mention, my favorite non-Batman DC character, Dick Grayson. So it's a great marriage there of character I love with a guy that I really wanted to write a DC book. So
yeah, definitely excited about that.
Yeah.
I do kind of wish they would address Robin and Dick more in the New 52. And almost now, like with the DC moving to the West Coast and clearly some things changing again inside the New 52, you almost wish they would have went back in the beginning and just made it a clean break instead of trying to like decide what stayed and what went, because they end up throwing most of it out anyway.
Even with Batman proper, it's like, you know, originally Snyder was like, you know, you could hear him on Fat Man on Batman. He basically, you know, told exactly how the New 52 went, that each one of the individual writers on books, or at least the different teams, like all the Bat people, got to decide what they want to do with Batman, and they all agreed, we're just going to make everything count. We're just going to, you know, put it a smaller period of time. And those certain things don't make sense. Like, even now, with them rewriting it, it still doesn't make sense that he became Batman 6 years ago and that Damian is like 10 or 11.
Yeah, they're burning through a lot of book in there.
Yeah, exactly. But they, you know, they did that. But now with 0 Year and stuff, you know, they made the decision. I guess, you know, most of that stuff doesn't actually count. Like, we're just gonna totally redo it. So it probably would have been good if right off the bat they'd have just been like, fuck it. I guess they were just afraid a lot of it, not wanting to make some people mad that have been reading for a while. Because when you think about, you know, I mean, you've been reading comics but not getting weeklies. I mean, we at least got in it. Like, if we had gotten into buying weekly comics a year before, we might have been one of those people that was like, God damn it, like, they're resetting my continuity. So, you know, they were trying to please everybody, which I think the biggest mistake that they probably made in that, even though I applaud them for letting a creator go through with his vision, but the biggest mistake they probably made in all that was just letting them kill Damian, because people were loving Batman and Robin, and at first, like, Damian was a character that people were split on. A lot of people didn't like. They were just like, he sucks. But by the time he died, people really liked the character. So, you know, and now it looks like they are going to bring him back. They're doing this, you know, they're doing the Batman book that's coming out in July. One shot, Robin Rising Omega is what it's called. And I'm guessing that'll go into an event probably in Batman and Robin. Batman and Robin 33, they said, will be like the next book after that. And Robin will be back by then. So, not reading Batman and Robin, but just reading reviews. Like, we know that the current storyline is that Batman is looking for the bodies of Talia and Damian, so it seems most likely that Damian's just gonna come back. Could be something different. I mean, you never know. They could do something different, but it seems like that.
Seems to me that they let Grant Morrison finish his story, even though it didn't really make sense within the context of their reboot.
Even Batman Incorporated makes no sense. Like, they're barely mentioned anywhere outside of, like, just his book.
So,
yeah.
I mean, I wonder if it's just like, okay, well, he's been dead long enough, now we can just bring him back.
Yeah, I mean, if he comes back in issue 33, then he died. I forgot how long ago it's been. He bit the dust in, like, issue 18 or 19, so it's been, wait. It's been over a year. By the time he comes back, that will have been, if you count the 1 month where they didn't have books because of Villains Month. I mean, he would have been gone like about 16 issues. I mean, you're looking at a year and a quarter or so, or a year and a third. So I mean, that's about. I mean, we said when he died, he's either dead forever, he'll be back in a year. So that's about the time if it does turn out to be him. And the last small bit of news was we saw friend of the Poddy Humor Network. He didn't know it at the time, but it turns out that he was. Jason Aaron, who did interview on the Midnight Black Mass.
He still knows. I hit him up from time to time. I congratulated him recently on the already pre-success of Southern Bastards, because just with all of the critical love and the creators slobbering all over it, it's going to be a financial success.
It's like every creator that we like has been talking about how great it is. And just reading that first little 4-page preview in the back of some image book, I think it might have been a revival.
And people are like, it's the best comic in years, is what a lot of people are saying. So
I mean, he's been knocking it out of the park, lately with Thor, and coming off ending X-Men, it'll be nice to see his next chapter of work, going with that. And I hear he's got apparently another creator-owned book or two in the works too, so that's awesome. But yeah, he's got his the first thing that really his first big success as a creator-owned, Scalped, has been optioned. As fucking everything Vertigo's ever done has happened the past fucking few months. WB just opened the floodgates. Like, we got properties. Somebody fucking come take these, and they are. But at least luckily they still own all of them. Unlike Marvel, you're not fucking. They aren't fucked on the DC universe because Fox owns the Flash. At least they never did that. But he's got that coming. But it's coming to WGN America. Which I didn't know that was now the name of WGN. I didn't know that they added America to it. I guess they wanted to be like, we're not just the Cubs and the Bulls. But yeah, you are, motherfuckers. But they're doing original programming.
They're the TBS of Chicago.
Yes, exactly. Except for, exactly. But they've never made an original show before, so it's a little sketchy. If you've grown up watching that, you know it is the home of Cubs and Bulls, and also home of the Jefferson reruns and the Cosby Show and stuff of that nature. I think maybe some Saved by the Bell syndication back in the day.
Oh, all kinds.
That's their general thing. The shows that are syndicated on every single network, they're one of those networks that always gets a piece. But they're doing original programming. I saw they've got something in development now, and apparently they got a couple of big name people with things in development at their place. So their first original show hasn't even come on yet. But then Scalped's going to be one of their things.
Their first show debuts this week, I think. It's that Salem show about the witches.
Right, so, yeah, they're getting in the business of original programming. So, I mean, you don't know what to fucking think. Maybe that show will show a little bit. Because, I mean, it's WGN, so you think about it like you do TBS or one of those, and you're like, that's not what
Scalped
get the job done.
Ain't going to be represented right.
But then again, AMC was the fucking, AMC was the black and white movie network that once a year showed the cool Halloween marathon, and that's the only time you thought about them. And now they're the home of, some of the very best shows on TV. So, maybe if they're going that route, and it's going to be cool. And because, I mean, Scalped is one thing.
There's a lot of properties out there to be developed. I mean, I'm guessing all these networks are trying to figure out how they can cash in on them.
Trying to get their piece. I think everybody's afraid, in a day where fucking Netflix is around and Hulu's around. And, I mean, Hulu, I guess, isn't even competition because the same people that own the networks own it. But where there's, you do have Netflix and you got all these pay channels, people are, and see Game of Thrones getting fucking 1 billion people watching it. People are trying to get their little piece. They don't want to be left out in the dark. The days of networks simply syndicating reruns of old shows, seems to be pretty much over. It seems like you got to have original programming to, be up in the game. So, but that's cool. I mean, like I said, hopefully it'll be good. Hopefully WGN will be another one of these new networks. Oh shit, they have great shows now. It's never been a better time to be a fan of fucking TV dramas. It is, like I said, the golden age of that. The things that would have been the great movies back in the day, they're now instead of making this a 3-hour movie, let's make it a 10-hour season of a show. And it really is the very best time to be especially being an adult and be a fan of TV. But
yes, sir.
Yes, but that's all that. So we'll get to the polls.
DC first?
Let's see what I got.
Marvel first?
That's all I got.
Oh, all you got is DC. Okay, well, I got a healthy dose of Marvel.
Yeah,
we can start there.
We do Marvel first.
There were some good books this week. Had 6 pulls overall, and 4 of them Marvel, 2 DC, and I really enjoyed the books this week, to be quite honest.
Had a good week as well.
Thor, God of Thunder, number 21. Speaking of Jason Aaron.
Jinx.
Oh,
Dr. Pepper.
there's a beer in the fridge. Go get it.
Maybe after this pod.
Muji's contemplating it.
Yes.
You getting more of old Thor fighting Galactus in the End of Days.
I do love old Thor.
You can't fucking beat that. And
I don't want overexposure, so I'll say this in like jest. I think the book is perfect the way it is, but like a part of you are like, can't Jason Aaron just write 3 Thor books?
right? Is that too much to ask?
Yes.
Uh,
Bendis could do it.
Bendis would do it.
That's true. Don't put any ideas out there.
Right? Shh, they're listening. Thor in the modern day, of course, is going back to Broxton, Oklahoma. If you remember a few years ago in the Marvel Universe, that's essentially where Asgard was relocated to. And in the wake of Siege, still standing there, Thor has developed a kinship and a friendship with these Oklahoma residents, and he helps them out, and he tries to be a good god and, you know, assist people when they need it and all this other shit. So, anyway, he finally, after a long time out, comes back to Broxton and finds out that Roxxon, who he's been having a beef with for a while, they essentially bought out the town and put a bunch of fucking refineries and shit in there, so it's like super polluted and fucking killing off people, and it's like, you know, it's really horrible. And Thor goes and fucking attacks their CEO, who fucking sues them. And as we found out in the last issue, the CEO is actually masquerading as a Minotaur. Yes, a Minotaur.
Nice.
And if you think that sounds stupid, then fuck you, because it's awesome.
Yeah. I think Minotaurs are awesome. Minotaurs are badass in Lion the Witch and the Wardrobe. How about that?
Yeah, and Batman the Animated Series.
There's a good kids book for you.
Maze of the Minotaur episode with the
Speaking of Marvel, I hate to jump back out of comics, but just really temporarily, I did see. The more I hear about this Fantastic Four reboot, the more I'm just getting pissed off.
It doesn't sound like they have any fucking idea what they're doing.
It seems like they're trying to get it the most, like, they seem like almost how wrestling, like in the, like, early 2000s decided, like, we don't want you to associate this with wrestling anymore. Like, they really don't want you to associate that movie with, like, a comic book. They want the box office, but don't want it. Like, I'm always, like, screaming at a lot of these movies, like, I just wish it was, like, a little bit more adult. I wish it had a little bit more stakes, you know. Fantastic Four is one of those things, though, it's like, that's fucking not, that doesn't need to be gritty. That's not what that is at all.
No, you're not even capturing the essence of it if you do it that way.
Yeah, and I saw, like, a release from, like, a Fox executive. I think it was at Wondercon. It was like, you know, we're really not setting out to make a superhero movie. We're setting to make out, you know, like a gritty, like, adult film here that just happens to have superheroes in it. I'm like,
yeah, that's
I don't know about the Fantastic Four. You say you're going to do that with Batman. I'm like, that's the right way to do Batman. You say you're doing that with the Fantastic Four. I'm getting more and more pissed off. But anyway, it's back to polls.
Back to the polls.
Random rant.
Uncanny X-Men number 20. Speaking of Bendis, he's cranking them out. And Chris Bachalo backs this, has a very Wolverine and the X-Men feel, if you like that, on the art. S.H.I.E.L.D. and the X-Men are still at each other's throats. Surprise, surprise, we find out the X-Men were attacked by a Sentinel. Who sent the Sentinel? Well, it was created by S.H.I.E.L.D. Maria Hill, of course, denies all involvement. No. But anyway, it's...
As they do.
As they tend to do, it's a big back and forth between S.H.I.E.L.D. and the X-Men trying to figure out exactly who's fucking who. And
the S.H.I.E.L.D.'s like, you don't want us to bring in the Avengers again. And they're like, no, comic book fans don't want you to bring the Avengers back in again, motherfucker.
But of course, you know, it's the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants pulling the strings as they've reunited back in Madripoor, and Mystique is posing as Dazzler, S.H.I.E.L.D.'s mutant liaison, who is the Mole, who is fucking over the X-Men and sending Sentinels after them from S.H.I.E.L.D. So, yeah, you get to see Sabretooth and the Blob and some old classics in this one, so...
Sweet.
Pretty nice. Winter Soldier, The Bitter March, Part 3. Loving this miniseries. That's one thing I'm not bitter about. is how awesome this fucking miniseries has been. Some whimsical and fun art. I really like the way it's drawn. It's kind of minimal, but they really are effective. I like this where he shoots Ron Shin and he's tracking his blood trail down the hall. This is like the way they use shading and to put his like eyes. He's got like this infrared vision, so his eyes are glowing red. And Winter Soldier's a bad guy during all this. Of course, this takes place back in like the '60s, and Nick Fury's involved, and Ran Shin, who is the Iron Nail in the modern Captain America continuity, is also a main hero. Just a very good issue. What were your thoughts on it? I know you read it as well.
Yeah, I thought it was good. It's a good tie-in. It's unexpectedly, fucking tied in to current Captain America, which I don't know why that never crossed my mind. Like, Rimder's writing Winter Soldier, like, we were both excited, but for some reason it never crossed my mind. Oh, yeah, it'll probably tie into Captain America, which he also writes, but I think that it's done a good job of that. I mean, it's good. It makes you pine for there to be a Winter Soldier book all the time again, because, it was awesome the whole time it existed.
Yeah, and it really affected...
Maybe with the popularity of this Cap movie, it'll happen. Maybe they'll think that they can give it another run.
I think so. I mean, like, he's so much more effective as a villain. I mean, Bucky, the character, is so identifiable as a babyface. You like him. You want to get behind him,
yeah.
and you follow him. But, man...
But he's great. He looks like a villain. He's great as a villain, and he's like a true good nemesis that can really like mess things up. Like
he's a little scary, you need him to be a little scary.
So many of the villains in the Marvel universe are just like, there's only a handful of them that like when they're in a book that you're like, oh man, like shit could really go wrong here. For the most part, guys are kind of like fill-ins, like yeah, fine, they're here, but nothing that bad's gonna happen. But when Winter Soldier is a villain and he's fucking out there, and that he may pop up, then that's if he does pop up, then bad things can happen.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of the villains that are like that, they've either made not quite as powerful or turned to like babyface. Like Magneto is one of those that now he's just too popular, so he's got to be all the time. Reading that old X-Men, even though part of it I feel like a little bit it's a little out of date. Like I don't connect to it. The stories aren't don't hit me as good because they were like aimed like a little bit different back then. But still, even in it, when Magneto shows up, you're like, oh shit, like he's about to fuck people up. And Winter Soldier still carries that. There's not that many characters in comics do like the Joker. Like there's not that many characters that when they show up as a bad guy, you're like, oops, and he's one of the few.
Oh yeah.
And old Brubaker, one of the best creations of the past 10 years?
Yeah, what a great addition to the canon. I mean,
yeah, even though Baby Bucky was there, the Winter Soldier is basically a whole different thing.
Oh yeah, and a great evolution of that character as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
They got Amazing X-Men #6. What is reportedly the last issue with Jason Aaron, though.
He tweeted that that was his last one, so.
So that's weird that he would write one, but I guess was called All in the Family Part 1, so I'm assuming it's part of a multi-part arc, but maybe not.
Yeah, I don't know.
But it was the most awesome X-Men family reunion ever. This was a great issue, and definitely my Marvel pick of the week and a strong book of contenders this week. But I loved it. It was everything an X-Men fan could hope for. It was a nice
goodbye to Wolverine the X-Men.
It kind of was. It kind of was.
I mean, I guess it was his goodbye. He's been writing some form of X-Men since he took over Wolverine. Marvel, yeah, so for years. So I guess 6 or 7.
But I mean, Nightcrawler's back, and so we finally get this welcome home party for him. So all the X-Men decide to go out to a bar to celebrate and get drunk for Nightcrawler's coming home party. And even Cyclops and the crew shows up. There's some tension, and there's a really great moment when he comes in there. But, of course, we find out that Mystique has infiltrated this party because the shit with the Brotherhood is going on. And we get the fucking three-way brawl between Mystique, Nightcrawler, and Azazel. And it's fucking awesome. I mean, that's like a comic lure, for years that people fucking have talked about is, oh, well, Mystique is Nightcrawler's mom, and Azazel is his dad, or Azazel, as they called him in the movie.
Fodder, mudder.
So, yeah, it was just incredibly awesome. Highest recommendation possible if you're an X-Men fan. Go check it.
Yeah, it'll be a sweet first hardcover to grab.
Oh, yeah.
But cool. So I guess we'll get over to DC real quick.
Yes, sir.
Actually, a little outside of DC, and Vertigo, they own it, but I guess I'll do that first. American Vamper. American Vamper. Second cycle, number 2. Back down to $2.99, which is a nice price. Like to see that. You get a little bit more of what's going on. You get a little bit more backstory on the Gray Trader, the bad guy. In this book.
Yeah, he seemed pretty menacing.
And you find out like why he's so menacing. Basically, Pearl does some investigating and calls some old contacts, and they're like, "Wait, what? Who are you talking about?" And they're like, "Yeah, we know who he is," and they tell you who he is, and it's like, "Oops, it's bad news for the good guys." So, Great American Vampire's back. It's awesome. Really pumped for it because it's just issue 2, and there's a bunch of them going to be in this whole second cycle. So,
it's a fave.
it is great. It is great. So I'll jump over to Harley Quinn, number 5. That'll be my DC book. First one. It's cool again. It's a good book. Harley Quinn. I mean, there's a little bit of continuity in this book, but for the most part, not. It's just a good news story every week. This week was no exception. We got this old geezer that's got some old enemies that are all in retirement homes and stuff, and so he gets Harley Quinn, makes a deal with her where he's going to help her out with something, but she's got to help him take out all the old enemies, and they are old. Like, she gets to one place, and there's this guy, like, laid there, like, tied up to, like, oxygen masks and stuff in a hospital, like, he's on the way out, but she has to kill him anyway, so she's like, okay, and she kills him even though he's basically comatose as it is. So she's basically going to, like, kill, like, all, like, old, like, 80-year-old people for this dude to, like, help her out that's also an old 80-year-old, so it's funny.
That series is tremendous. It's like it's like a sitcom that were written by Mel Blanc and Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah, it's really good, and you also feel good for, Amanda Conner and Jimmy Palmiotti are writing it, and it's awesome with Jimmy Palmiotti. Also, Western's good, but it's like one of those books that's not like a critical hit, so it's nice to see, like, this has been selling great, like, it's consistently been in the top 10 and stuff, so it's nice to see something he does, selling really well, and nice to see people's interest in Harley Quinn coming back, so that's great.
Awesome.
And then, we'll go to Smallville.
So the Smallville universe still rocking and rolling. This is just a unique concept, the first start of the next Smallville Season 11 storyline. It's called Lantern, and you would expect the Green Lantern would be coming to the Smallville universe. Actually not, but sort of. The ring comes, and it finds exactly who the cover depicts. It's not Hal Jordan, it's Cal Jordan. That's right. Clark Kent is the ring bearer. What we find out is this is actually the ring of Tomar Ree, the Green Lantern who kind of looks like a chicken, a rooster actually more so.
Right. The bird-like one.
Yes. So we found out that he died, and Superman gets his ring. So hijinks ensue, and Jon Stewart's there. And in this continuity, it's like in the old DC where apparently Hal Jordan did become Parallax and go crazy and kill him. Yeah, like, so he wasn't around anymore, and so there was no Green Lantern to. But what it was is Tomar Ree was the Green Lantern of Krypton. He wasn't the Green Lantern of Earth. So that's why it found Kal-El. Jon Stewart is already the Green Lantern of Earth and makes his first Smallville appearance here too. So very cool book.
It's a good thing that Ring didn't find Clark 5 years before, because back then he was very afraid. So he would have fucking got eaten up by the Ring. And some of those old school, some of that fucking Clark is Dawson season 2.
Oh yeah.
Season 2 Clark.
Could have been bad.
Found that ring, that he'd destroyed the planet.
Especially if he was on that red K.
Man, that red K really could get him. He really became like a really cool guy, actually, but a dick. He really took advantage of the Superman powers the way that almost everyone would when they were like 18. If you're like 18 and all of a sudden you got Superman powers, you're like, yeah, I'm gonna play pro football and like go to clubs and pick up girls. Like, that's what I'm gonna use this power for. And then you would hopefully eventually age out of it and do some good. But you do that first. Y'all would. You know it. Go to another book. The much delayed Justice League, number 29. It was delayed by like 3 weeks, but still. So
God, it seems
29.
like 3 months.
I know. It's number 29 on 30 months, so they're really barely behind on it, but it does feel like a long time. But it's It was really good. It was the end of this little fight with the Metal Men and everybody. So it was great. It was the end of Cyborg. They did a great job in Justice League through the Forever Evil times of rebuilding Cyborg back up into like a really important, part of the league and hero in DC. So liked it a lot. And the Metal Men came back, did some stuff, and then it ends with Cyborg saying he's got to go save the Justice League, and this has to be continued in Forever Evil 7, which is the one that is taking forever to come out. I think it comes out within the next couple weeks, I believe. So we'll get that.
Oh, I fucking hope so. Batman Eternal, the weekly experiment
Which
continues.
is not taking forever to come out.
No, they're right on top. They got one in my box every week, at least for 2 in a row.
That's what she said.
God damn it, I love this book.
Oh, I thought you loved my joke, but
yeah. The joke was good too. But it's what they promised, but you were kind of skeptical when you heard it. Is it gonna fucking bounce all over the place? But it's a full exploration of the Bat universe. Of course, we saw Commissioner Gordon went to jail after some fucked up shit happened that caused a massive train wreck that killed a bunch of people.
Yeah, that's no good. Where he apparently shot a ghost.
Yeah.
Or was it?
Really fucked up Gordon. So Batgirl's introduced into this, of course, by trying to figure out what all's going on.
It's really weird when I'm reading this. Like, I keep having to forget because 0 years going on. Like, I'm like, this is just regular DC continuity right now. Like, you have to remind yourself because
we haven't had it in so long.
We don't get any other Bat books like on the weekly. I mean, I get Detective, but it's also just removed. It seems like its own thing, and we don't get Batman and Robin or the Dark Knight. So yeah, it really does feel like oh yeah, like this is just regular stuff happening here. Like this isn't some weird other world.
Yeah, and lots of crazy appearances in this. Dr. Phosphorus fucking.
Oh yeah, the end of it was awesome. Yeah,
crazy, and then the reveal
of spoiler alert if you haven't read it, because I mean this is gonna be weekly. So if you're waiting on the trade, that's in December with the first 20 of them, motherfuckers. So good luck keeping all this stuff not spoiled for yourself. But yeah, fucking Falcone
is back.
In
the
continuity.
Roman.
He's in continuity for the first time, really.
That's true, because
he was just in year
1.
It was in year 1, which came in regular Batman, but was never spoken of again until Loeb and Long Halloween in his books weren't really in continuity. So, they were their own make your ultimate Batman continuity of before the New 52, the old continuity that if you're tell Batman's story, and you're it starts at year 1, ends with the Dark Knight Returns, and fucking all Loeb's books are in between. That's the essential Batman continuity,
Yeah, no, that's a fact.
Yeah, throw in fucking Batman getting his back broken if you have 3 years of your life to read those 3 giant motherfucking collected editions, but that spanned every book possible. But yeah, Batman Eternal so far is hitting out of the park. It's been really awesome. It's been what you would expect, something championed by Snyder, even, if he's not writing the issues, something that he's the head of would be like.
Yeah, I mean, only 2 issues in, so a long way to go, but it's everything I wanted and much more, so I'm really happy with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then on to Batman number 30, which I assume is pick of the week because it's the last.
Has to be.
That's what it does. Yeah, it's awesome. It's the beginning of Savage City, I believe is what it's called. It's nice. The cover here says 0 year final act. I guess maybe they didn't know when they were putting this motherfucker up. Also, we got this reused fucking cover again with a different color. This is the first act, a great way to cut corners, by the way, Capullo drawing all the art. The first act of each one of these books just has the 0 year blank cover. They're all different colors, if you've noticed that. But it's awesome. You can see what happened to Bruce. Remember at the end of the last issue, he got fucked up. He was in a big fire and had to take off the bat suit and crawl out. And you figure out what's been going on with him in the meantime since. And, he's been messed up. So he wakes up, and he's been basically comatose for a little while. And when he wakes up, the city is overgrown and the Riddler's taken over. And then you find out through the book that the Riddler has basically hacked into everything in the city. He's doing kind of what did the Dark Knight Rises. He won't let anyone leave or enter. He's got all the exits to Gotham, gimmicked up. With no one there, no army standing in the way, just the promise of, I've got something there. If you try to leave, a bomb will go off and he'll die. And, and then you find out that he comes on there every day at a certain time. He comes on this big screen in the middle of Gotham and says if somebody can tell him a riddle he can't answer, then he'll end this whole thing. And And apparently every once in a while people try and, don't succeed, and then you see what happens to them if they don't succeed. So it's really awesome. That's all I'll talk about it since you haven't read it yet. But it's really great. And then you kind of see how Bruce is going to get back in the game and, see that what Gordon's been doing in the meantime to try to combat it. But it is a really great issue. So
awesome, man.
It's a great start to the end of this. I believe this goes through issue 33, so there's 3 more zero-year issues, and then I believe that's it. And then I think Batman 34 is going to pop up where Eternal is at right now. I think it's going to be. They're going to be. I mean, it's not going to be the same stories, but it's going to be the same continuity. Because it seems Eternal, a lot of the stories, Eternal is going to be Gotham Central style, from what I hear, for the most part, where Batman is not necessarily going to be the star of every story, but he's just going to be there.
Yeah.
Like I'd read like this. So there's a story that already they've written, I guess, put in the can. It's like it's mostly a Harvey Bullock story. So we'll be seeing what Batman's doing, his big story, Batman proper. Excited for that too, man. Excited to see how this is going to end. The 0 years is going to end because it's been so great, and then also excited for what's going to happen in the Batman proper. But that's it. You got the Bulls next week.
I've got a million Bulls next week.
It's weird. This is a rare. Oh no, we'll see next week. This is going to be 4th week of the month, and the week after that is the rare 5th week in the same month where there's barely any books coming out. But
yeah, I probably won't get anything then, but I've got like Aquaman, Batman Eternal. I've got.
I have no idea what I have.
Justice League United first issue. Secret Origins #1.
Nice. Going DC heavy next week.
Yeah. I don't see the Wake.
No Wake on there?
No.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have very many books.
The Flash also I have.
Nice.
I don't see you have any DC books.
Yeah, what's coming out for
Unless you're getting that Superman that's tied into the Doomsday. That's out.
Superman Doomed?
No, just Superman #30. Is that not part of that?
No.
Okay.
I don't think. I'll have to look. No, Superman Doom #1 comes out before anything, so I think that event actually doesn't start till May.
Walking Dead 126.
Nice. Is that my only Image book? I may have a small as shit week next week.
Yes. That is your only Image
Nice.
book. And then on Marvel, you do get Daredevil.
Is there an all-new X-Men?
Yes. Guardians of the Galaxy. Uncanny Avengers. That's it. So, yeah.
3 full week. A lot for you.
Yeah,
not
huge
for
for
the
me,
mooch.
not for you so much, but that's okay. It bees that way sometimes.
Exactly. But hope you guys had a good Easter and a good 420, if that's what you do. And if you did have a good 420, then the perfect thing to do is to celebrate that and read your comics. You know how you read comics? You gotta go get them.